It's Monday night, so let's mint mask. This last week, as I was preparing for my Sunday message, I got a chance to spend some time thinking about the difference between a representative and a politician. As we're heading towards the midterm elections, you're going to hear a lot of conversation about representation. And the difference between a representative and a politician is quite simple. A representative is a person that you have appointed to speak on your behalf, to represent your interests, your feelings, your inclinations, your preferences. And a politician, a politician will often do what he or she thinks best and try to convince you that what they think is best is better than what your preference may be. Now, this is not a political jab. I'm not trying to stir anything up, but there is clearly a difference between a representative and a politician. And the story that we were looking at on Sunday illustrated it perfectly. Jesus had been invited to an A-list party by the Pharisees. And when he got there, there was a man who had an illness called dropsy. And that illness, if untreated, can be fatal. And so he asked the appointed representatives of God, the Pharisees, is it lawful for me to heal this man to save his life on the Sabbath? Well, the Pharisees, who were the appointed representatives of God to his people and to the people of the world, stood silent. Not because they didn't know the answer, but because Jesus had asked a spiritual answer, and they were thinking with a political mind and heart. They knew that whichever answer they gave would cost them politically. Either they would look like they were sympathizing with Jesus, and those who were opposing Jesus would now oppose them, or to say no, they would look heartless and uncaring towards the man who was sick and hurting and needed healing. So they stood silent. And Jesus took the opportunity, he took the initiative as God always does, and he healed the man and saved his life. Now, the difference between a representative and a politician is this. The Pharisees had become politicians, or at least these at this party. You see, they were more concerned about their position. They were more concerned about their reputation. They were more concerned about their future position than they were about the love, the health, and the life of the ill man, because they knew in their hearts that legally, yes, God had made a provision that that man could be healed on the Sabbath. Well, you see, the interesting thing in our world is this, is a politician will often do what they think's best, and a politician oftentimes spends his or her effort trying to broker a deal, a compromise, as it were, between two parties, maybe between political parties or between corporate parties. But one of the primary roles of a politician is to negotiate a mutual understanding or a mutual agreement. And I get it. I understand how earthly politics works. That's not a problem. But when we talk about spiritual truth, we need to understand that as a pastor, God has not appointed me his representative to broker a deal between him and the world. You see, God has appointed me to be a representative to try to accurately and consistently reflect who he is and who his son is. Loving, caring, compassionate, all those wonderful things. But a politician, I'm not. Because God is not interested in brokering a deal. God has made his offer to you and I. His name's Jesus. And it was called the cross of Calvary. And it's validated by an empty tomb. You see, Jesus has made his offer to us. And now he needs me. He doesn't need me. Let me back up. He gives me the opportunity to be his representative in this world. And so, my friend, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, Focus on being his representative and stop trying to be his politician. He doesn't need you to try to broker a deal. And for those of us that will be heading to the polls soon, remember this. It's not those who claim to be good politicians that you may want. The people that I want are my representatives, those who know my heart, who have compassion and passion towards the same things I do. So keep that in mind when you're casting that all-important vote. I want to say thank you, as always, for your most precious gift to me this evening, your time. And I hope that you have a glorious week and that we will come together again next week for Mint Mask with a message.